Thank you very much for that very nice introduction. It's great to be here this morning in Harndorf. It's been a couple of weeks since I've been up here, but it is a great part of the world. I just wanted to pass on my thanks to everyone from the Visitor Information Centres from around South Australia, to staff and volunteers and management, because you guys are at the coalface and do such a great job, more than any internet site can do. It actually gives that personal touch. And I was just thinking on the way here of some of my great encounters with visitor information centres, some here in South Australia, some interstate, some overseas. As a tourism minister, I think I'm reasonably well credentialed in having travelled to over 50 countries. So I remember I was thinking of one that I visited in 1994 when I was living in Switzerland for a couple of years, and went over to Innsbruck in Austria. And we went there, and it was the person in the Visitor Information Centre said, "You don't want to stay right in town, there's this beautiful little village called Eagles just out of there." We went back to that village 3 or 4 times over the next 2 years while we were staying there. So that's the sort of value adding that everyone can do in Visitor Information Centres right around South Australia. So you can really add to the economic spend of people who come to the area, whether they're from Adelaide, they're out for a couple of days away from the city, or they're from overseas. And you know, I've got a very soft spot for the McLaren Vale Fluorio Visitors Information Centre at McLaren Vale. A, because it's in my electorate, but B, it's just such a great source of knowledge, and I know a lot of the volunteers who are down there. So often I'll just sort of wander around, have a look what's on the bookshelves, and they've always got some wine tastings and things like that. I've dropped a few $1,000s at art exhibitions there over the years as well, so it's a nice space. And recently I've been up to visit Port Pirie and Port Augusta and over to Port Lincoln. Missed out on Whyala's Visitor Information Centre, but I've promised to get there next time I'm around. So as I get around through the regions, I really want to come and say good day and see what it is that you're doing. I was at the Mount Lofty Visitor Information Centre a couple of weeks ago as well. Each of our Visitor Information Centres is slightly different in what it offers, but what they all offer is fantastic local knowledge, and that's what people want. When you walk in and you're not from the area, you want to be put in touch with that special experience that you can go home and tell everyone about the winemaker that you met, and you know, he did it this way and this is how he described it, and the wine was fantastic. And those sort of experience, because if people want to just go and buy a bottle of wine, they can do that at a bottle shop around the corner from their house. So they're those sort of experiences. They're telling people where the good galleries are. They're giving. I remember staying in Burra back in the mid-90s and went to the Visitor Information Centre, turned up, hadn't booked any accommodation, and they said there's a whole range of things. But I remember they said, well, the old miners' cottages, if you stay there, you can kind of walk to the pub and back. And I'm going, that's the kind of place that I need. You know, I mean, it was a Friday night and all the farmers were coming in and having a few beers. You want to go down, have a counter. You don't necessarily want to be driving around too far from your accommodation. So it's that really good knowledge that locals have and can adapt to what it is that you want. So you go and strike up a conversation with great people like yourselves, and it just really increases the level of experience that people are going to have. They might spend more money than they intended to spend. They might spend more nights in the region than they intended to spend, and that's just how important your roles are. I must single out the Port Lincoln Visitor Information Centre as well, because I was over there in 2005. I was Pat Conlon's Chief of Staff, and he had emergency services, and after the bushfires that ravaged the Eyre Peninsula, it was decided that I would stay in Port Lincoln for 6 weeks and be the Chief of Staff to every minister that came through. And we had a minister on the ground in Port Lincoln every day for 6 weeks who had the power of cabinet. So anything that needed to be done, whether it was, so the education minister might have been there, but we might have needed to do something in health. So Jane Lomax-Smith had the power to do whatever was needed. So I needed to be there to be the continuum. And the trouble was the bushfire was on January the 5th, so it sort of clashed with all the people there on school holidays, Tunarama and everything else. So I was going back into the Visitor Information Centre on a daily basis to get the keys to another place to go and stay at. And in the end, I stayed in this real little shabby shack out at Talker, but it meant that I didn't have to change houses or motel accommodation every night. So Port Lincoln Visitor Information Centre does have a special place in my heart, and when we were over there a few weeks ago, I dropped in to say good day, and it was really good to see everyone again. So Once again, thank you so much from the government's point of view, personally from my point of view. Your work is fantastic, it's very much appreciated. I hope to see all of you as I get around the state. As I said in the introduction, I was born and bred on a dairy farm down the southeast. The regions are vitally important to us as a state. It's the engine room of our economy, whether it's tourism, mining, agriculture. And we need to look after the regions, and we want to know that every bit of work you do is greatly appreciated by us as a government. So thanks very much, and all the very best for your conference here. I'm sure you'll have a great time networking and learning new things. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come up here and join the delegates at this three-day conference, and on behalf of the District Council of Mount Barker, we particularly appreciate you taking the time to do so as a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you very much for that.
I'm sure it's a local product.
Yeah. We always have to assess against other regions.
Indeed,
Thank you so much, everyone.